Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
My name is Carlton King, and welcome to the Black Spy Podcast, the show that shines a light on the world of secret intelligence, national security, and armed governmental personal protection operations, and of course also delves deeply into geopolitics. What I actually want to do now on this episode and in future on other episodes is sit with Dan the man and actually have a look at what I'm calling critical thinking. So this is actually thinking beyond what's fed to us. Because what you really got to understand is this. We're actually given things by government, by the media, the mass media, particularly the ones television, the press, etc., that we are meant to believe, we're told we believe, in fact in education as well. We're taught in education also that this is the case, X, Y and Z. And oftentimes we never question the basis. So what I want to look at today to kick this one off, and as I said, we'll look at it in future, we'll look at things like what is race, we'll look at things like what is society. Is capitalism, example, the best system? We're just told we are, we just accept it. You know, why are there wars? Are soldiers actually murderers? You know, issues which we can get to grips with. So thinking critically on issues. But today's issue I want to look at is, and don't laugh, but I do want you to think about it, is, are there aliens? Yep, I'll say it again, and you're going to sit down and say, Carlton, you're gone crazy. Are there aliens? Is the government, are governments, plural, hiding the fact that there are aliens? That's what I want to hit on. Dan the man, what do you think?
How are you, Carlton, anyway, first of all?
I'm well, thank you very much, my good friend.
Good.
You know I've brought this up because you've mentioned it and others have mentioned the alien aspect. And I just want to get to the gist of this matter.
Yeah, I think I saw a statistic actually not long ago, and I think now there was a survey done in the US where they asked, obviously they say it's the percentage of the population, obviously, but obviously they're only taking a select number of people. But they said, that now more people in the US actually believe that there are aliens, or there is definitely some different life form out there. And I think that's the first time in recorded history anyway that's happened. But yeah, it's definitely a subject that now I think a lot more people are starting to feel more comfortable with. Back in the day, if you even brought up the fact of aliens, you're ridiculed, you deemed someone with a tinfoil hat, So yeah, I think it's definitely a good conversation to have. What's your opinion on it? What do you believe that? Well, let's start by saying, obviously, now we've got access to social media. Everyone's connected. There's videos online about so much stuff. There's information everywhere. So I think now a lot of people are starting to be able to do their research themselves.
True.
Rather than having to wait for things to be released by different governments. But from what you've seen, Carlton, what's your opinion on it? Look how vast. How vast.
I'm going to be truthful.
Yeah.
I'm going to be truthful. I think there must be aliens. And I've gone further. I've gone to say there must be. And I'm telling you why I'm saying this. Because I think that there are some people who have seen various things, who are credible witnesses, and they just haven't seen it in isolation. So I give you an example of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Again, we don't want to, in critical thinking, what you should never do is just expand and just not think about it. But let us argue that the US government has very recently released the Tic Tac pictures of Navy pilots, trained 100% Navy pilots, right, in the US forces, amongst best in the world, like the RAF are, and who are following objects which they cannot say are identified in any way, shape or means. Now let's think about that. That could mean that, of course, the United States is creating such objects, or another country is creating such objects, and they haven't told anybody about it, and the Navy pilots have seen it, and then therefore follow it. So there's a whole squadron were following these objects. And the officers who were flying them actually have now come forward and said they were flying them. It's actually been showed on television who these people are.
Yep.
Right? So it's not some mythical person, or the actual people. What was interesting is most of these parts, because some of this stuff was happening in 2006, 2008, some of it's much later, and they've said we didn't want to say anything because we'd look stupid.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So this is now people saying to you, listen, I've seen it, I never wanted to speak out of turn. But because Lou Elizondo, example, who is a well-known person who ran ATAC, which was a US government sanctioned body. He was an intelligence officer who was tasked as the director to look into unidentified objects, right? And he has done work on it and spoken to these individuals. A deputy assistant to the Secretary for Defence, a wealthy guy in his own right, and I say that because he's been wealthy, has been able to speak out, because he's not no fear of people not hiring him, so he's been able to speak out. Also, with Lou has been looking at this, and you may have seen a television programme about it, etc. But they've looked at these issues, and they've seen that these sightings, which now they've forced the US to release these sightings in front of a commission of senators. It's not Joe Soap doing this. This is now US senators in charge of the committees that look into defence. So the highest level committees have had to release this information. So what I'm saying is there's clearly something. Now, the first question that most people say is, well, maybe it's an American project that they don't know of. That's potential.
Yeah.
Never take potential away, because we're thinking critically now. I've got two problems with that in some ways. One is, if you are sending an object out to a naval carrier, because this was a carrier strike force. So what you have is you have the aircraft carrier, you have then all the defensive ships that are with the aircraft carrier, and you have obviously all of the planes on board the aircraft with the carrier, and then you send it off. So it's been seen first and foremost, these objects, by the radar guys. They're seeing it. So it's on radar. So they saw it and saying, what the hell's this? What are this doing? The pilots have been sent up to now look at this. You are putting them in danger. If you're now telling them to follow objects, doing dangerous manoeuvres, turning G's that no human body can do, and yes, we know it could be some sort of drone doing it, but the turning G's that no drone that we know of at present, or that's officially known of at present, is turning these sort of G's. So it could be something from the skunk works, that works back in Area 51, where they do all the stuff. Okay, so it could be something from the skunk works, but they are putting their own people in danger by showing it there. That is, I think, problematic, because if you look back into most of the skunk work stuff, from everything I've ever heard, that's Area 51 in that area, and the technical elements. So when they were doing example, they were creating stealth aircraft. Nobody knew about it, and they were flying them around. What they didn't do, though, is fly them at strike aircraft, at a carrier strike force. They never did that. So what I'm saying is, why would you do that?
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense. So now let's say it's an enemy. So why wouldn't, for the US, and that basically for the US, read enemy, anybody who's superior to us on their technology.
Russia, China,
right. So they're going to say Russia or China coming at them, right? Why would they go at a strike carrier force, showing their hand practically? Again, that doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, I can't work out the logic.
So I can't. So you've got to have some logic when you're doing things. So what's the logic behind you showing your hand? Why not keep all of your capacity until the day you actually need it, and then wow, we can't stop this, because right now you're getting people then thinking we need to defend against this capability. Well, if you don't know the capability exists, you can't defend about it. So if it came to the real day when it's all going to happen, the war happens, you've got something that the defending body can't defend against. Now, I know that from my previous work, you do not want to show what your hand is. So why are you showing your hand? That doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, for me as well, I think just the sheer fact that look at the size of the universe to start off with.
Correct.
You know, I mean,
Correct.
Why are we so special? Why is it just on Earth that there's life? For me, the vastness of the universe just automatically means that probability-wise, anyway, at least probability-wise, there's definitely something out there.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
It's just why we get a lot of sightings here on Earth. Why are they coming to visit Earth? Now, I've watched a lot of videos about this. I'm not going to lie. I've watched a lot of movies. I've watched a lot of series, and a lot of them are saying that the times that aliens were visiting and the locations that they're visiting are around naval bases, around army locations, and the times as well. It was around the sort of time where we were creating nuclear weapons.
Very true.
And maybe that was the reason they were visiting, to keep an eye on us.
So the catalyst for it was, these are people going crazy. We don't know what they'll do.
What they'll do, yeah.
Problems.
Have they created something that could potentially cause them some harm?
Okay. Makes sense.
And they're coming down to monitor it. But it is, again, even now, I think there is this sort of stigma about talking about the subject. Still.
Very true. So let's think of it critically now. So we're talking about critical thinking, because this is going to be the new element that we're going to do ever so often. So let's think absolutely critically on the issue.
Okay.
Right. So let's take what the first point you made, which I think is the best point. So there's now all of this galaxy, and within all of this galaxy...
And it's expanding.
Which is expanding, correct. Only us and the animals on this planet are at a level that they can communicate and move around how we do and travel how we do, and no other type of being is capable. I'd say the chances of that are
0.
That's what I would say.
Probability. If you put a mathematician on it to look at it,
Yeah.
they'll probably come out and say 0.
That's what I would say. So that's the first thing. Secondly, and this is where critical thinking comes in, we go to Mars and we say, let's land something on Mars because Mars has got an atmosphere like ours. So therefore, that's the likelihood of where life will be. I find that extremely arrogant. Why is it an assumption that life has to be like us?
Exactly, yeah.
Right? Life could be like anything. It may not need water. It may need something else. It may not need oxygen. It may need something else. It may not be a being that is, what's the word I could solid like we are. It may be a being that is totally just transcendental and that you don't need to touch it. It may be a being that is like an Amiga or something, but is sentient and has got capacity to
Agreed.
build things in a completely different way. So there's an arrogance that we're showing, or is it a lack of critical thinking that these beings could be actually completely different to us and maybe even sitting in our Earth as we speak because we can't see them, example. Yeah. So I'm saying we're looking at beings and saying, oh, they must be like us in some way. You know, need water, need oxygen, have a certain weight, a certain height, a certain length, and be smart like we are in the way we are seemingly smart.
Yeah.
You can even look on our own planet.
Well, you can. I was going to say that. I watched something on Blue Planet, I think maybe it was, and they were doing like a segment where they were underwater in this underwater volcano, and it had this gas coming out, and they said that life cannot live down here, and they've said that for years. And then all of a sudden, I think a few years back, they go down there, they find out, oh, actually, there is some sort of animal down here that can breathe in this condition. We never thought it was possible. So think outside the box is what I'm saying.
Exactly that. And even when we look at the animals, who is to say that they aren't smart?
Yeah.
Who is to say that, example, a blue whale or a dolphin isn't communicating in some way, fashion, shape, building in some way, fashion, shape, or has no need to build, because actually it is the master of its environment.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the world is 3/4 water, not earth. So they're in their environment, and their environment is superior. So they say, we don't need to build anything. We just need to communicate, send our ideas between each other, work our ideas in a certain way. They may have, I don't know, they may say there's 1,000 days in a year. Because that may be what they work to. So if you don't think outside the box, you don't think critically, you don't understand that. They may say, these humans are very nasty animals. Yeah, we got to stay away from them. They're rubbish. They're nonsense. They're killing other life forms like us. Just because they aren't fighting back in their fashion, or haven't created a nuclear weapon to kill us all, doesn't mean to say that they're dumb.
Less advanced, yeah.
Less advanced. It's the same way as people say, oh, there's some fellow in the Kalahari, he can't do anything. Are you telling me that the bloke in the Kalahari is not as smart as the bloke sitting in London? Because I'll tell you that he is.
You put that bloke in London in the Kalahari, I'll tell you now he's going to die.
Exactly.
You put that bloke from the Kalahari in London, I'm sure he'll survive.
He lives, absolutely, he lives a great life. He's got no problem. So this whole concept of somehow people are better doing this, that and the other, just doesn't hold water to me. And that's what I'm saying. So we come back to aliens. And I think that another factor that's quite interesting is, if you hear some of the testimony of some of the people who have recently come out talking about aliens, have recently spoken about what they've seen in areas like Area 51. And right, people say, oh, he's falling for it, it's a TV programme. But let me say something like this. We are Eurocentric. We are American-centric. But when you start looking outside of that, you can see that in the papers of the Soviet Union, they also have seen things that are not normal, that are aliens. They've mentioned it. When you look in South America, they've been talking about in areas, they've seen things. Look in Australia, they've seen things.
All over the world.
Look in the African continent, they've seen things. Go back to Egyptian times.
I was going to say.
They have seen alien people already.
There's pictures where there's alien spaceships in pictures from thousands of years ago. Correct. So this isn't a new phenomenon. Now, another thing that I've heard or I've seen, or a point that's been put forward, I believe is a doctor, Dr. Stephen Greer, I think it is.
Yep, heard of him. Yeah.
And he does a lot of work with governments, works with, very high up at a high level. And he believes that the reason that it is being kept from the public is purely because of the energy source. The energy sources. So these crafts are moving and defying the laws of physics, and he's saying that the energy source that those crafts are using, if that was brought out to the public, all these big companies like Shell, who are using oil, and coal companies, and that would all be obsolete completely.
Yep.
And a lot of people would lose a lot of money.
Yep.
So this is the reason that it's being suppressed. Yep. What's your thought on that? Do you believe that that could play a part in it? Does that maybe impact people?
Oh, damn the man, you've fallen for it. You've fallen for these conspiracy theories.
I think people have got to think for themselves.
That's what they're going to say to you. But I'm going to tell you something that's fact. Not fiction, but fact. We're now all talking about using hydrogen to create a way of creating energy from hydrogen. Fact. The Germans, in the Second World War, created this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fact. I'm not
Yeah.
listening to anybody who's saying it's not. It's a fact.
Yeah, yeah.
Both the Soviets and the Americans were racing to get this intelligence, right? During the war still, when they were both meant to be allies, and definitely post it. As I understand it, above my pay grade, I was in the secret services, I know, but above me at the time, I didn't, and of course it's a period going back. What happens is that this was found, and I believe by Americans. Mm-hmm. Okay? They also took over German scientists who were utilising this and other elements, Werner von Braun, example, and other elements, to create atom bomb and whatever else. Right. They actually stopped these guys from creating the hydrogen elements that they needed just from water because of the power of the oil industry. Right?
Yeah.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
That I know for sure is a fact. So what you've now got is the power of these companies able to do that. To say, we don't want you to use this, we want you to keep using fossil fuel and oil.
Yeah.
So if they're that powerful, it's very easy to see them doing it in many other different spheres. Because at the end of the day, in our system, money speaks.
Yeah, of course.
You can't become president of the United States without raising literally billions of dollars. It's not possible. But you can't tell me, critical thinking, guys, this is what we're back to. You can't tell me, I don't care who you are, if you're taking billions of dollars to get your role, do not tell me that you are not in the pocket of somebody.
Oh, yeah, all day long.
You've got to be, because
Yeah.
why are they putting the money into you?
Yeah, yeah.
If there's no gain, why am I paying for you to do the role?
Yeah.
So I don't care how good you are as a nice fella, wanting to do great stuff, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, wanting to do the other. Indeed, there was a certain president who saw war in the Second World War, the most devastating war of all time. Clearly, British and Americans didn't lose that many people in that war, but saw the potential for massive loss in that war. I mean, we lost 500,000. The American lost about 500,000. And that's a lot of people, if you're one of them,
Yeah, yeah.
particularly,
Yeah, yeah.
So if your family's one of them. But when you put that against 30 million Chinese lost, and you put it against something like 28 to 40 million Soviet losses, okay, because people just say Russia, it's not Russia, it's the Soviet Union, which obviously included the 14 republics, includes the Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Tajikistan, Armenia, all those are Soviet states, okay? So all these people are fighting this war, and they lost those amounts of people, right? When you know those losses were made, when you then, the United States, utilize a weapon, utilize it that kills 1/4 of all of our losses in one bomb, and then does it again the next day in another bomb, then this General Eisenhower, who then becomes president later, realizes what hell has been created, right? And realizes the dangers behind it. He warns not to be dragged into the military-industrial complex. Those are his words, he says that. Not to allow the military-industrial complex to create a system that is such that we can't control it. Now, why is that important when you're talking about aliens? I would say that's important because if you're spending, as the United States does, probably about $1 trillion a year minimum on its military every single year, which was at one stage, I think now it's about more than 12 times every other military put together.
Yeah.
So that can be China, Russia, United Kingdom, France, I'm just thinking of big spenders. Saudi buys a lot of weapons. Israel buys a lot of weapons. All of them put together don't reach the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So if you're looking at that, you've got to say to yourself, where's the enemy? Now, Are they creating a capacity to deal with an enemy way bigger than us? Or is it that the military-industrial complex has taken over? Either way, whichever way you want to spin that, it is not to their advantage to suggest that there's another body that we could not defend against, because then all your money's wasted. Why are you creating it?
Yeah.
So if there's aliens who can travel to here from somewhere else, it's pointless trying to defend that against that.
Yeah.
So you're spending money, and this is public money they're spending.
Yeah.
Let's understand that. There's people in the United States who aren't getting operations. There's people in the United States living under flyovers. There's people in the United States. You know, one of the funniest things I've ever found, not funny as in ha-ha laughing, but strange, is that each year, I think it may have stopped now, but Cuba, I'll say it again, Cuba, embargoed by the United States, poor country, relatively, used to send something like, I think it was 300 doctors to various cities in the United States, and they'd hire out a stadium. They did it in Houston, Texas. And they'd tell people, we're sending these doctors here. And the Americans would be lined up around the stadium, literally tens of thousands, to get operations that they couldn't afford.
Yeah.
In the richest country in the world by far, and Cuba was sending its doctors to treat them. Yet still spending $1 trillion on arms each and every year. Why are they not looking after the people?
Yeah, it's backwards.
Right? So this is what I'm saying. So I can absolutely see, why would we say there's something above and beyond us? Think about it. Think about religion. What does that do for religion if there's something above and beyond us?
Exactly.
Think about the power just of the presidents and the prime ministers. If there's something above and beyond us, why are we bothered for them? So I can see how it can be problematic. That's not proof. We're thinking critically.
Yeah.
That's not proof. But you can see how it would frighten people who are in power.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's this guy, Richard Doty. Have you heard of him?
I have actually, yeah.
Right. Richard Doty was a special agent in the US Air Force's Office of Special Investigation. I used to work with him when I worked for the American. And Doty was on the project that looked into unidentified flying objects. And, the other side, aliens.
Yeah.
This is a fact now. Now, he himself admitted that he used to dress people up and actually hire strange people, you know, people who might have 2 eyes, 3 eyes, or this, that, and the other. And this is what he said, for strange people, to put people off the fact that there may be aliens. Or put people off the fact that normal classified projects were actually being created and pretend it was aliens creating them.
Yeah.
Because what he knew is then the people couldn't go and say that, oh, I've seen this, because they'd be ridiculed. So he himself was twisting the alien aspect and making people think that aliens were strange, and if you thought about aliens, you'd be crazy. So he was doing that. Yet still, he stated he has seen aliens, and he's named them.
Yeah, that's right.
So the problem with him is he's undermined his own credibility.
Is he the guy who he said that they actually had an alien, didn't they? A live alien.
Correct. That's
supposedly, yeah.
That's what he said. Now, I can't prove that. You know, we can think critically on that issue. He has stated that, you know, he's got some awards from the United States, and he said, who knows how true it is, that when he was given an award by President Reagan, he said, so what was your award? He says, I was dealing with issues down in, and he said the base. He said, some funny stuff goes on there, doesn't it? And Doddy said, yeah, because the president had some understanding. Because apparently they're not telling the president.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've heard stories where the presidents have asked to see stuff and they've said no.
Correct.
Straight out denied, and that's the most powerful man in the world.
Correct. So this is your situation. So what he was saying is, you know, I was doing this. I was putting disinformation in to prevent people to think about aliens. Do you believe him? Do you not? What's in it for him?
That's
He's
what
now
I mean.
he's ridiculed.
What's his agenda? Like,
He's ridiculed now.
He's ridiculed. Yeah, he's completely ridiculed.
He's done what he knew he was doing to others.
Yeah.
He's now ridiculed this guy who's got a
He
wall.
was completely respected in his field, and now he's being ridiculed. The same thing with is that Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar, who claimed to work at Area 51. He was even getting death threats. He's getting chased. He's getting shot at on the motorway. He doesn't even want to do interviews on telly. You can tell when he's doing stuff. What's in it for him? You know,
this is the problem I've got. This is when I try and think about it critically. I think about what is it in it for the guys who for 30 years have said nothing and then say something. What is in it for the guys who right in the beginning said this was an alien craft and then denied it was the case?
Yeah.
What is it in it for the guys who said we've seen this, but we were too frightened to say it? And there's many people, and I've said not just in the United States, all over the place. We just hear more about it from in the United States. In Rendlesham Forest, example, where there was which was aligned to what we euphemistically call an RAF base, which was a US Air Force base in all but reality, where nuclear weapons were stored. You know, they saw a craft, and they to this day do not know what that craft was. There's recordings of it.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's actually film of it, but nobody's actually seen the film. They now just talk about recordings. Mm-hmm. There were two police guys. I'm just explaining it in Britain alone. There are two police guys who followed something up in Yorkshire. Again, ridiculed.
Yeah.
No advantage in it for them. None whatsoever. Still stuck to their guns. This is what I saw. This is what it was. MOD came out, questioned them, Minister of Defence from the Air Force. Put it down as unidentified. Yeah. Okay? Because that's an easy way around it. But then told others not to speak.
Yeah.
So if there's not something in it, why have others been told not to speak?
Why are you being told not to speak? Why are you being silenced? Yeah.
And frankly, those who were speaking were made to look like clowns. Mm-hmm. So you're keeping it to yourself. Right. So what I'm saying to you is, if you think about it in the most critical way, why would there not be something? And you, quite rightly, Dan, you hit on the ancient pictures that are shown in not just Egypt, in other societies as well.
All over the world. I've seen one in Greece where there's a guy on a rock looking up and there's a spaceship in the sky, and it's clear as day. What is it? It's clear as day. Like we say, this isn't just a modern thing. It's been happening for thousands of years. People have been saying that they're seeing things in the sky. And the fact that obviously the Pentagon have come out a few years back and said, these videos that you are seeing online are completely legit. We do not know what these are.
Correct.
We do not know. Now, they're not saying they're aliens. They are saying that they're completely unidentified. We don't know. It could be it could be an alien, but it could be another country that has got some capability that they're just not aware of. But they're defying the laws of physics. They're moving from ground level to 50,000 feet in the sky in less than a second.
Correct.
And you're getting it on radar as well.
Some are even going
as well. It's not
under the sea.
Yeah.
And coming back up again.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows you can fire something from under the sea as a missile. But what it doesn't do is go down and then come back up again and still fly the same way it was.
Yeah. And this is on, like we're saying, this is on radar. This is army technology that is being picked up on and recorded on. So, it's a difficult one.
You see, ATIP, right, which was run by Elizondo, who had great respect, who was an intelligence officer for many, many years. He has now been lambasted by individuals who've tried to soil him, who've tried to say you're a joker, you're a clown, who've tried to just undermine him all the way through. So there is no advantage for these guys to come out. I mean, Even I'm feeling a little bit shaky saying this now. Because people turn around and say, "Oh, he's a clown, this fellow. He must be making up. Oh, he never did anything really. He must be a clown. He's a Walter Mitty." This is what you'll get now. People might say,
right.
"Oh, that Carlton King. Oh, he's a Walter Mitty. I listen to his show. He's a Walter Mitty talking about some space nonsense." That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now, let me make it clear. I'm not one of these people who suggests that.
You're not a conspiracy man.
No,
at all.
in no way, shape or means. And I'm not one of these people that suggests that we never went to the moon. It was all done in a studio. I'm not one of these people who believe that. I think that's a load of nonsense. But what I am saying to you here now, in my belief, is there's more to this alien aspect, especially when you see the actual footage performed at supersonic levels by very, very well-trained individuals using the latest military equipment, and you find out that all nations have been looking into it. That's the big one.
Yeah.
All nations are looking into it.
It's not just one isolated incident, is it? It's this all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
All nations are looking into it. And of course nations look at it because they wonder, what is our potential enemy doing? Yeah. So, that's what you do. That's a given. That's understood. What you don't do is have units that look to somewhere that is, hang on, this is above and beyond what we think is the case. Unless there is something there. And that's my point. I'm thinking critically now. It's easy for me to turn around and say, let's not talk on this issue. I've held off talking on this issue, to be fair. Yeah. And if Alexander's listening, I'd like to have him on the show. He was in charge of ATIP. Yeah. And I'd like to hear, this sent from the Pentagon, years and years just looking at phenomena, which we would call unidentified flying objects, for the Pentagon. I think he had a 22 billion a year, a million a year budget. Why?
Yeah.
Why, if there's nothing there? What are you looking at? So, I'm happy to have the fellow on the show. I'm happy to have anybody on the show who can, and our version of it. What's the guy called in Britain who's working for the RAF doing exactly the same, obviously at a much, 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 much less budget and much, much less capacity, because they don't have the capacity of the US to go around the world seeking this out. Because he could go around the world, Elizondo, where US bases were. Yeah. So this is the big difference. So I'd have any ex-Soviet on who's going to tell me what the Soviets were doing. I'll have any Chinese on who's going to tell me what the Chinese have been doing on this issue.
Everyone's looking into it, aren't they? So
Absolutely. So I believe Italians looked into it very strongly. Italians were doing it and have a body that was looking into it. I'll have anybody on the show who wants to come and tell me from the officials who are involved in these particular issues, because I am starting this critical thinking aspect that comes up. We're not going to do all the shows on that. I'm still going to have my guests coming in who are going to be involved in, straightforward, easy projects that we can all talk about and their life stories and everything. But I do want to actually step it up. Let's look at the bigger picture. Let's look at what there is. And I'll leave you this one. We've just been taking pictures, they said, of worlds that happened millions of years ago.
Yeah.
Millions of years ago.
Yeah.
So the fact is, if we're looking at something that happened millions of years ago...
Because of a distance of where it is, you mean? Yeah.
Correct. So these
places
have been destroyed. What's happening? Have these people been there and back 10 times while we're just thinking about trying to look at something that's millions of years ago?
Exactly.
They know what's happened. Because when does the future become the past, and when is the past the future? This is a big question.
It is. These are big questions, yeah.
Very big question. I used to look at it when I was a school kid. I used to make this discussion. We used to have this discussion at school with some of my mates. If you keep halving something, you never reach the end, do you?
No.
This is quantum mechanics. You never reach the end.
Yeah.
So when do people actually die? If you just look at the moment, when is the moment of death? When is the cat asleep? And when is it awake? There's a period of time when it's both.
Yeah.
Right? So in that period of time, what's happening? What's happening in the period of time when something is both? Anything can be going on.
It's quantum physics, isn't it?
Quantum physics, absolutely.
Quantum mechanics, yeah.
Absolutely. And there's another thing that they've got. They had this, and don't get me wrong, these things are things that the CIA in particular was looking into. I mean, we might actually go down that route with Project Night, Project Blue Magic, the one where they were using LSD. Project, I forgot the name of the project now, where they brought up all the LSD they could in the world at one stage. This is what I'm saying. If you look at things in its... you'd think that, no, this is not possible. You think it's not possible for certain things to happen. But things are going on all the time.
MK Ultra.
Project MK Ultra, correct. And all the bits that went with Project MK Ultra. So that was just one element that people were looking at. Believe me, the alien issue is not gone away.
No.
It's not been fully investigated yet. And
or if it has, we don't know about it yet.
Correct. All we've done today is just put it out there for those guys who are cognitive thinkers, those guys who want to understand what's gone on in the world, those guys and gals who want to just think about what might actually be, what is actually happening in our world. Where are we? What are we doing? Are we actually a world within a world? Are we an atom?
We never know.
Within somebody else's body, in somebody else's world? You know, what are we? Where are we? I mean, these are issues that we're, we've got to look to.
I don't think there's enough discussion on these sorts of things at schools. No. I never had there's never a discussion. You're taught at school, this is what is.
Correct.
This is A, this is B, this is C. And you're not actually taught to think outside the box. Think, why are we here? What is life? Look at the bigger picture. I don't think that's done enough in schools, to be honest.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think I'm going to leave it with this one. If everybody is created in Africa, how can you say there's anybody who's not an African?
Mm-hmm.
Example.
If we trace it all the way back, yeah.
Next is, how do you then account for DNA? We say this DNA means you're an Irishman or you're a Welshman or you're whatever. What does that mean? So people pick something up and they say, that means you... Does it? No, what it means is that that's the preponderance of something. So, this is why I bring this up with the alien. That's the preponderance of something. The preponderance of something is that we are alone. Is that the reality? Because we haven't seen it. We don't know what's been seen. That's what we've got to say.
Yeah.
I don't say that we haven't seen it. There's been people taking it up to craft, supposedly, and I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
But who am I to say that they're not true? Who am I to say that that is not what happened to these people? We just don't know.
We don't know.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'll leave you with. Because, as I say, now and then we're going to put some of these madcap elements to you for you to think about.
We'd like to hear your comments as well.
Yeah. We want you to go away and think about it. What are your thoughts on it? Contact me on any of my socials or anything like that. So again, thank you guys. And Dan, thanks very much, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Carlton.
Let me go through this. And we'll see you guys next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening And don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.